Hey everyone, today I'm here to bring you all an effective and hopefully helpful guide to playing as the Mercenary Naib Subedar in Identity V. This is my first attempt at a video about Identity V, and considering the fact that I myself am a Mercenary main, with most of my Survivor wins landing underneath his belt, I figured that he would be a good character to start out with for providing a guide. I do hopefully intend to create more of these kinds of videos on survivors or hunters that I am efficient with, and other videos as well. Let me know if you guys have any suggestions or requests for a guide, and I will determine if I can provide one for that character. I am going to be focusing on Survivor for the most part starting off, but will rotate into Hunters later on. And with that, let's get into it. Before we begin with how to effectively use the Mercenary, let's go over how to actually play him. Mercenary is a rescue character, meaning that he shines best when it comes to rescuing survivors from a rocket chair, as well as having strong potential with kiting hunters, which is why they are less likely to chase them before other survivors. The Mercenary's first trait is called the Iron Dash. The Mercenary possesses 3 elbow pads, which allow him to propel himself forward if he makes contact with a wall or other solid surface. The elbow pads must be selected on or off so that you may choose when to use them. Basically, the way that you use these is by pushing yourself off of a wall or surface in order to reach a certain distance, cross a large area of the map, or even dodge a close hit with the hunter. The elbow pads are a bit tricky to use at first, and you may need to practice a bit with them to understand how they work, as it is not a straight and done shot. The Mercenary's primary use of these elbow pads is to reach a chaired survivor before the timer reaches the end. However, most of the time, this may not be necessary. If the Mercenary is eliminated before using his elbow pads, survivors may pick them up, though they are only granted 2 pads rather than 3. The Mercenary is also capable of picking up other items once the elbow pads have been used, or if he would prefer to use a different item at the current time. The Mercenary's next trait is Skilled. It is a very simple trait that multiple survivors possess, allowing him to vault windows and pallets 10% faster than that of the average survivor. This is part of his rescue survivor status, allowing him to excel in a kite with the hunter. Although an extra 10% may not seem like a whole lot, it can be very helpful to avoid a terror shock or even a direct hit. The Mercenary's third trait is called Steal a Will. The first part of this trait is that when placed on a rocket chair, the timer decreases by 6% of the average rocket chair timer. On average, a normal survivor will be eliminated by 60 seconds of being on a rocket chair, given that they are not rescued before the timer ends. With the Mercenary, he will stay there an extra 6 seconds. That may not sound like a lot, but it could allow the extra time needed for a close call save. However, the second part of the trait is the more apparent and important part. When receiving a hit from the hunter, the Mercenary will not be immediately injured. His fear or injured status will slowly increase over the next 15 seconds. This applies to both hit states, meaning that it would take a minimum of 30 seconds for the Mercenary to go down after being damaged twice. This can be cancelled with a third hit, which will instantly incapacitate the Mercenary. This is his most prominent trait, and is why he is one of the strongest survivors in the entire game. Essentially, he is capable of absorbing damage and acts as a tank for the team. This also means that he is resistant to terror shock, however, not fully immune, as after 30 seconds he will go down. This is why he is the best rescue character in the game, as it is a guaranteed rescue in almost all cases. However, this effect can be negated using chip damage. For example, if struck by the photographer and having 1.5 points of fear, the next hit will instantly incapacitate him, rather than slowly build up. The Mercenary can also resist a detention hit, though if he is terror shocked during detention, he will instantly become incapacitated. The Mercenary's final trait is called Shell Shocked. The Mercenary suffers from a decoding debuff in which he decodes at a 25% decreased speed penalty than that of the average survivor. If there are more than 1 Mercenaries in a match, there is an additional 10% decrease, stacking up to a 55% decreased speed. This is part of the Mercenary's rescue status as well, as many rescue characters suffer from a decoding debuff in some form. Additionally, whenever the mercenary suffers a hit from the hunter, his speed in which he is healed is decreased by 15% for every basic attack landed, and this stacks up with each hit the hunter lands, stacking up to a 75% decreased healing speed. As the mercenary has the Steel Will trait, this trait causes him to take more time to heal both himself or be healed by his teammates. The penalty is stacked on with every successful hit, however, it must be equal to that of a basic attack, meaning 2 chip damages will cause this trait, not just a single one. The mercenary is, and has been, standing high at the top of the survivors' ranking. Having the ability to resist damage, make distance, and guarantee a rescue on nearly every hunter in nearly every situation, it stands to show that the mercenary is an unbelievably strong survivor. In terms of viability, there is currently no other rescue character that I, and many others, would rank above the mercenary. Being easy to use and having the most potential, I would suggest picking him up if you wish to use a strong rescue character. I would put the mercenary an S tier ranking of survivors. As for the persona traits and overall web that you should use, there is not much variety when it comes to using the mercenary. This is my current web that I use, as it covers his weaknesses as well as enhances his strong suits. It is extremely vital that you carry Tide Turner as a mercenary. There is absolutely no reason to carry Flywheel or knee-jerk reflexes on him. Of course, you should always carry Borrowed Time as a survivor, unless you're having fun in Quick Match, meaning that your 2 traits as a Merc should be Tide Turner and Borrowed Time. It is a major disadvantage if you are on a team with a mercenary that is not carrying Tide, and with his 3 elbow pads there is no reason to carry either of the other 2 traits. The rest of the other traits allow for extra speed during healing as well as a slight decoding buff during specific moments in the match. You can analyze these separate traits on your own if you'd like. While Merc is a rather straightforward character, he does have some quirks to him that players may not be completely aware of, as well as some advice I would suggest you use or practice in matches. Managing your elbow pads is key to using the mercenary. Something that I tend to see with Merc players is that they will use all of their pads with quick succession, which is something that I highly discourage. Unless it is absolutely necessary, you should never use more than 1 elbow pad in any given situation. For example, 1 elbow pad should be more than enough to reach a teammate on a chair before their timer expires. Unless you are across the map and are the only capable rescuer at that current time, there shouldn't be a reason to waste a second elbow pad to reach them. Another thing I tend to see is that after a rescue on a teammate, Mercs sometimes elbow pad away from after completing a rescue. This is not only a waste of a pad, as the hunter is very likely to chase you, but you shouldn't leave the rescue teammate to begin with. Body blocking is essential to playing the mercenary, and running from a teammate in need is a way to a loss, and a bit of yelling in the endgame chat. One tip I would suggest is attempting to keep at least 1 elbow pad for endgame. If you make it to endgame, the Merc should be the one opening the gate. If the hunter teleports to that gate, the mercenary can pad away from the gate, resulting in nobody taking any hits. Speaking of endgame, if close enough to the gate, mercenaries should take a detention hit to allow survivors to escape. A tip to keep in mind is how to actually use your elbow pads. Most tend to go with a straight dash, and this is perfect for reaching distances, but the mercenary is also capable of curving his dashes. What I mean by this is that the mercenary is essentially capable of flipping around after using an elbow pad. Depending on whether you're a mobile or PC user, you should practice making a curving motion. This technique can greatly confuse the hunter, as well as allowing you to rotate to a better kiting area or get yourself out of a bad situation. I would highly suggest practicing this tech. For the last part of this guide, I'll play a clip of a ranked match that I took part in and highlight key moments that I feel demonstrate how to effectively use Merc, as well as moments where I made an error or poor judgment. The match, of course, starts with me instantly heading to the closest cipher machine. Note that here, as batter is chaired, I ping the "stay put, I'm coming." I intend to first finish the cipher machine, as he went down before any had popped. However, the psychologist heads for an early rescue. The hunter being Feaster, had she not been the psychologist, she would have been instantly downed, thereby most likely selling the match. Once again, we sit through a bit more decoding, traversing, and decoding some more. In this instance, the batter once again goes down, and because I have hardly any progress on this cipher, and he is on the second chair stage, I make an early attempt at a rescue. This is where I use my first elbow pad of the match, but in hindsight, it likely wasn't necessary. During this rescue, I predict the first tentacle, but unfortunately not the second. The Feaster, however, ends up hitting the chair, which is something I would suggest attempting to force by running around the chair during rescues, as hitboxes may lead to an accidental chair hit. I take a second hit from the hunter in order to allow more time for the batter to escape and make my exit. A quick note, this team features a doctor, which I would highly recommend if playing with a pre-made party to include, as Doctor can make up for Merc's slow healing, which allows me to get up quickly. Batter is unfortunately eliminated from the match, and the Feaster changes targets to the Psychologist. Once again, I head to the Hunter and take another protection hit for the Psycho before heading to the Doctor's cipher and decoding until my fear reaches max. As I head for this rescue, I make the mistake of taking 2 hits, which will result in my down, although still allowing the rescue. I head away from the Hunter and begin my self-heal, however it takes quite a while due to the Merc's healing debuff, which is at max stacks. The rest of this match is, frankly, a team effort, as everybody is able to both stall the hunter as well as decode when given the opportunity. Once this final cipher is popped, I suffer a hit from a tentacle. Knowing I am now able to be instantly down from detention, I decide to use another elbow pad, and the hunter leaves me. Note how I still have one elbow pad remaining, and while matches may vary, I was able to reserve my pads for dire situations. The rest of the match plays out fine, and it ends with a 3-man escape thanks to the doctor's excellent kiting. And that's basically all I have. Hopefully this guide helps in providing insight to the character and a better understanding of how to use the Mercenary. If you have any questions about this guide or the Mercenary, feel free to leave it down in the comments. I would enjoy a discussion about the guide and your thoughts on it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.